Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond Influence. Today, we are very, very lucky to have with us a big reality TV presence who is actually making sure to not let her reality TV presence define her. Somebody who is very bold in herself. We're very excited to talk today to someone who is pushing past that boundary, making a presence online and pushing beyond that as well. Welcome to today's episode, Zaina. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, for sure. And of course, I have with me my amazing co-host, Scott. Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. We were down at the Super Bowl. It was amazing times. Did some amazing events, some work with really great clients. And yeah, it was a good time. New Orleans is a vibe, especially for the Super Bowl.
It is a good time. And how's your recent week been? Anything fun?
Anything fun? Ooh. I mean, I've just been nonstop of like birthdays, events. I will say I went to a SNAP event. It was sponsored by Clinique. They were celebrating Black Voices, Black History Month. That's amazing. That was amazing. And then right after that, it just kept rolling. Then went to a restaurant and then ended up at Aisha Curry's launch for her new like eye cream. So it was one of those days that just like kept going. And it was amazing just being around like positive vibes and people. And I made so many new best friends. Like it was great.
I will say I've never seen a balloon museum or you're some kind of something. I was like, you got to tell us about that.
Okay, so the Balloon Museum actually went on a date. So
okay.
You heard it here first.
But yeah, I went on a date and I thought that was like super cool. I like anything like interactive. Actually, it was a second date because the first date, I like to do like restaurant type of vibe. Like let's actually sit and have a conversation and see like where things go. So Balloon Museum was his idea. It was great. I was able to show off my juggling skills that I have. I'm not sure if you guys knew that about me, but I can juggle. And it was a really cool, immersive like experience.
Yeah, that's really dope. Before we get too far, Zaina, I'd love to let the audience know who you are. I know a lot of people listening are probably going to know who you are. But for those who don't, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Zaina. I'm originally from the East Coast. I live in Los Angeles right now. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually first generation. So both of my parents are from Sierra Leone. My mom is Lebanese, but she was born and raised in Sierra Leone. And I'm one of 4 siblings. I'm a typical middle child. I'm a Pisces. Shout out to my Pisces. It's our season. I've always just been like that creative, goofy person. I've always just had like a heart for just community and togetherness. And I also have a passion for just like fitness, wellness, self-care, beauty, fashion, all the above. Just like really stepping outside of my comfort zone and trying new things and just being like transparent about that journey. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell as I've evolved and through like different phases and careers. That's always just been at my core.
I love that. It's funny because we talk to a lot of folks and they're, they kind of are trying to figure out what to do on social media after they come off of a show or they have this big moment. And I had to say, like, your content is some of the most fun, like creative. I was like, all the music's on point. I think like the balance of fitness and life and just sharing your story. It's some of the best content that I've seen from like folks off reality. And I think it just feels, it feels like it's something natural too. Like you have that kind of flair for creativity, clearly like music, the fitness element, like intermixing, like even the highlights are like organized in a really thoughtful way in your profile. And it just, you can tell when people really get into it and they have like an eye for that. So I don't know, this one, I like it when, creators have that kind of ability to like create and share content in a really meaningful and organized way. And it's not just like chaotic, like here's my life and like really crazy.
Yeah.
Scott's talking about me basically.
I'm just like trying to not Kwame without saying names. But he's like, today I'm a rapper and today I'm a fashion influencer. Now I'm a tennis star who happens to have jacked shoulders from one particular angle.
Oh my God. But no, for me, that also kind of has been natural because I started like super early, like in high school and throughout like college and stuff. Like I've always, like when my friends were cheerleaders and on the step team and playing sports, like I was taking my parents' like little camcorder and like editing and like figuring things out and doing like YouTube and stuff. So it's just always been like at my core being a content creator before I even knew what a content creator could be or evolve into. It's just been part of me.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I mean, obviously you had an experience that helped to kind of elevate what that was, but that was like, you were just having fun with it regardless, you know, whether your platform was massive or whether your platform was still growing and gradual, you were having a good time with it, you know, but obviously there was something that, you know, we'll call it the big boom, right? Something that kind of created that explosion for you.
The atomic
and, you
bomb.
know, the atomic bomb. I like that one.
That's what my therapist said. Like,
You
girl,
love this.
you dodged an atomic bomb. I was like, you are absolutely correct. Thank you.
100%. No, that's good. You have pride in it as well. It's amazing. And it's also what created the path for us to become Netflix siblings. So, you know, we don't have to dive too deep into it, but tell us a little bit about, you know, what the ultimatum is and how that all came about.
Yes. I mean, for people who don't know what the ultimatum is, it's a show where there's couples, someone in the relationship issues their partner an ultimatum, get married, move on. You get there, you break up with your partner, you start dating other people, you live with them, you do a trial marriage, you go back to your original partner and you figure out life out. So for me, I was dating my ex, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, for 3 years. And I was at the point where I felt like our conversations in our personal life were getting stalled, like when it came around marriage, because he was married before, he was engaged after that. So there was like a stigma with that. And an opportunity presented itself for us to do the show. And I was like, you know, I'm a Pisces. I'm gonna go with the flow. I'm like, okay, this seems like a fun experience. And so we both agreed to do the show. And I will just say that I'm very, very grateful for the experience because I had no idea who I was dating. He did a complete like 180 flip, transformed into a different character for television. I was left blindsided. And, you know, I found out everything that was said and done, like watching it back with like the world a year later. So it was a very like traumatic experience, but in all the best ways because it got me to like where I'm at today. And I'm just so grateful for it.
It's funny. I was talking to my wife about the premise of the show, and I have to like admit, it gives me such anxiety to even think about because like I'm like 10 years on the other side of marriage where it's just like everything is like commitment, relationship, sacrifice for your family. And I'm like, hey, let's just go on TV and like date other people and get like trial marriage. And like, see, I was like, it's like so, I get so much anxiety about it. But I like after like hearing about the process and seeing it unfold, it does deliver on the promise of getting to that resolution and coming to the answers that you want. So, I mean, I don't know. You don't knock the process till you try it, I guess. But like, man, like, what was that conversation like when you're like, hey, we should throw down and do this thing? Like, that's got to be kind of like an interesting conversation to navigate, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is, even in the way we got on the show is that we both applied for it. So an ad popped up because they do it based off of, I guess, cities, similar to Love is Blind, where they cast in certain cities. So it was like the LA, Arizona, I think San Diego area. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And he's like, oh, we should do it. And that should have just been like a red flag in my head. But here's like my toxic trait is that I am just like very optimistic to the point where I like trick myself into thinking something is like good when it's actually not. So in my mind, I'm like, you weren't prioritizing our relationship and taking it to the next level. And now you want to on a global platform. So I'm like, oh my God, you want to do this and show the world that you're actually in a relationship? Like, great. So the conversation was actually very easy because he really wanted to do it, which fast forward and now all makes sense for his like hidden intentions of it. But it wasn't like I dragged him to do it like at all. Like he was a very much so a willing participant.
Yeah. I think it's, as someone who's been through a bit of a Netflix journey myself, a reality TV journey, I think it's really positive when you can look back at it and you can like laugh and shrug your shoulders and be like, honestly, hey, this was way, 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 way for the better. This was, this atomic bomb was something that needed to happen in order for you to like figure out what you needed to do next in life. And that part seems much better. Yeah, much better solo. I think when it comes to relationships, sometimes I think the term is rose-colored glasses.
Oh yeah.
Where,
delusionally, that was me.
Exactly, right? We are all Delulu to some degree, right? In things that we don't really notice, right? And so I think when you really, really need to take that step forward, sometimes you need that jolt, whatever that case may be. Some people go through that process naturally, and then some people go through it in a really big, extraordinary way. And I think you got to do that. And hey, it worked out for you in a positive way. So I'm glad that you are here and went through it because it brought you here with us in this moment.
So appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, obviously after, the whole process went about, you've gone through it, you've seen it on TV now. How would you say your life has changed in the most impactful ways? Obviously, the big one is now you're single and dating. But yeah, tell us more about life.
Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest change, so obviously went through that whole situation. Thankfully, it was like a year later that everything aired because it allowed me to really like process and heal and like take healing my journey like intentionally and do it in a holistic standpoint. I was very intentional of like mind, body, and soul and making sure I wasn't neglecting like one part or the other because I didn't want it to jade just my opinion of men. I wanted to be open to like a new partner coming in and everything. So after like that, and then the show airing, I will say the amount of emails, people found my email, DMs, like comments of how much my story was like inspiring to people. I was like, wow, this like really just gave my trauma purpose. Like the fact that my experience and like the things that I went through and my lessons that I learned from it could help be a cautionary tale to some other people and it could relate to so many people. Like that was something that to this day I get chills thinking about because I'm like, everything does happen for a reason. I'm even in the most traumatic way, I'm glad that it was able to inspire and continue to inspire like other people. So that's been like a really great, like positive thing that came out of it. And of course, like obviously like removing this person has allowed just room for just everything positive to come into my life. Like, I don't know if either of you have ever been in a situation where you're in a toxic environment and the moment you like drop it or close that door, it's like everything else just starts making sense and comes like, it's like an attraction thing. So that has just been amazing. Just the way like even my career has changed since then. I was working in corporate. And then the breakup happened. My job kind of ended. I was like, I'm going to take a bet on myself and become an entrepreneur and just continue to just go with the flow and evolve and see where life takes me.
I love that. It's awesome. One of the coolest pieces of content, when just going through your feed was your sister's reaction to watching the show. And like, you just talk about people reaching out and it was like, you can kind of see her empathy for you and like her like watching the whole thing unfold. And I think you just get a different window into people when you see stuff like that. And it was just fun to watch, like, her take on it. Obviously she knows you very well. She's advocating for you, but I think like you impacted not only your family, but other people. And yeah, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, my sister, she she definitely was very invested, obviously, just being my sister, but also was very blindsided by everything too, because she spent significant time with my ex and was just like, who is this person? Like, where did they come from? So, but yeah, I completely agree. It's just interesting, like, to see from all different, like, layers and levels, just everyone's perspective on it. And then just also just kind of knowing your truth, because all the facts aren't out there. Like, even close friends and family don't know the nuances of what my relationship was like with this person. It's very intimate when you're in a relationship. Not everyone knows all the facts. So all very interesting, to say the least.
So I'm curious, coming off the show, obviously there's kind of the period where you guys are waiting for everything to come out, and then, kind of everything drops. How did you manage that process of kind of all of the drama, the hype, the notoriety coming off? You were even, the advertising for the show. And so like people are going to associate your, image with everything. How did you handle that kind of immediate notoriety and kind of all of that attention all at once?
What's so crazy is that the reunion aired on the 18th of December, and I went on a 3-week Europe tour with my best friend and her family for the holidays. So we went to Switzerland, we did Paris, and then London. And I think for me, like, of course, like on social media, I was getting flooded. There was a lot of articles being written. There were people saying whatever. But for when I was in Switzerland, like, I was getting recognized. I'm like, you guys watch this? Like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Or just like, people like coming up to me when I'm in Paris and London. I'm like, wow, like Netflix is really global. Like, I think I knew that, but now it's like hitting very like close to home. And I think for me, what kind of kept me like grounded in it was, one, the year that I had to fully process. Even though I didn't get closure from my ex, I created closure for myself, and I was very much so healed. It was like, once watching the show and realizing like how shady he was and how much he gaslit me, it was almost like just added validation to what I already knew. So just having a sense of being grounded of like my journey, my story, knowing the nuances, and everyone else's opinion, just kind of, it was a lot of positivity, to be honest. I would say it was like 98% positive, just like feedback and people seeing things for what they are. And then there was that other percentage of people who were just like, well, you should have left. Like, he didn't love you. I'm like, well, duh. I should have. I wish I could go back in time, but I can't. But I think a combination of just having so much support from like close friends and family, having my healing journey, and having a sense of just like myself just helped with all the attention that was coming my way.
That's awesome. Kwame's like, where was that 98% positivity when I got off this show?
Oh, I know. That journey was crazy. But hey,
it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot. Whether it's positive or it's negative, it's just like overwhelming, but at the end of the day, like, it really, like, go through that experience, it builds certain layers like around you and within you that I just feel like you can't build any other way. I mean, going through a journey like that is like nothing else you'll ever experience. So, regardless of which way it came about, it still, made me who I am. And I do think that I'm grateful for some of the tough moments that I experienced after the show, because my skin is so much tougher now. I'm telling you, like, nowadays I feel like I see stuff on the internet and I'm like, okay.
Wait,
like, whatever.
Your season since it aired?
Have I watched my season?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, rewatched it. Okay. I've not rewatched. We went through it the first time. My wife has watched it, I think maybe like 5 times through.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She's strong.
I mean, I think so. It's funny. I think she picks her favorite moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it is really funny. Like sometimes I'll turn on the TV, I click on Netflix, and then boom, it'll be like continue watching Love Is Blind. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah, and it's like I could pick out the exact scenes too. So no, it is funny. But talking about going through it and having people reach out to you and have their opinions about things, I think obviously you started to form a sense of community around you and who you are and your identity and the things that you like, the things that you love. People who reach out to you and say really positive things. How has it felt now, branching out beyond just the family that was around you to feeling like you have this massive extended family across the globe, so much so that even people in, Switzerland could recognize you?
it's like, y'all watch this? Oh my God. Thank you for tuning into my trauma. No, it's honestly just given everything that I went through just such purpose. Like, I don't know how else to explain like the just sense of gratitude I have that even, I mean, you know what it's like doing reality TV and then there are edits and you feel like sometimes it doesn't really show like your true essence. Like, I feel like people were able to really just see me for all of my different facets and like personality and depth and like all the things because I showed up as my authentic self. And it's just so like heartwarming to see all different age groups. Like I could walk into a party or like an event and it's like an older generation like talking to me about like watching the show. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, Auntie, you had to see that part. But like, or like the super like young kids like in CVS just like telling me how much they were inspired by my journey and stuff. Like it's just such a great heartwarming feeling to have of just how something can be turned around for like a positive impact.
I was gonna say, I think the one thing I was thinking a lot about the popularity and growth of reality TV, and I think the reason why reality TV continues to become even more popular is because when you watch a regular movie, you almost, even if you don't know exactly how it's gonna go about, you know the ending. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. Like heroes never lose. The character always has an arc and comes at the end and figures something out and it becomes this amazing grand thing. But in reality TV, we don't know what's going to happen. It's going about the way that it's supposed to happen, even though there's going to be a ton of conspiracy theorists out there who say, hey, it's all scripted, which I can guarantee you it's not because it was my life. Right. So I think it's really like it's something new and something that people have never been able to guess at, something that is, you can never, ever repeat that process twice. Even if you have Love Is Blind, go through the same exact process 8 seasons through, you're going to get different results every time. And so going through that journey, people seeing you and being like, oh my gosh, you're a real person. You went through this thing. I saw you. I was inspired by you. It's I don't know. It's cool. It's amazing. It's something that's really positive to see. And I think when you mentioned the energy thing, one thing that I wanted to just like co-sign is like the power of positive energy around you. A lot of things change when you shed off negative weight, when you expel negative energy, you're able to focus on the positivity. Like you breathe that air in and it just feels different. You feel inspired in different ways. You feel motivated in different ways. So I think that's one thing that I want people to take from that little moment that you spoke of is it doesn't necessarily have to be a human being. It could be an activity or an addiction or something that really just like consumes you in a way. Once you can shed that off, you feel so much more positive in the things that you do and it gives you energy towards it. So I'm glad that you're feeling that kind of energy.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's something I also just recognized in the past like year and a half is we should constantly take inventory of the people around us, the situations, the jobs, like the events we're going to and assessing like how we feel afterwards. Because if you have a friend and you have conversations with this friend and afterwards you feel defeated, you don't feel inspired, you feel like just a sense of negativity, like that's probably like a friendship you may have to assess. Like sometimes I feel like we move so much and we're so busy and caught up in just like the go of things that we don't really assess like if something's having a positive or negative impact and like how to shift it and move forward. Because a lot of times we can exist in a toxic environment and not even know, because we associate toxicity with which it is toxic, but like being physically abused. It's like, it's very obvious that that's toxic, but there are other things that are also toxic that can impact just your confidence, the way that you move, the way that you see life, the way that your productivity and everything. So that's something I've like really have just taken time to constantly assess everything in life.
I think about perspective, and it's so hard sometimes to see things clearly. And I think it's so important to surround yourselves with folks who have a different perspective, who can see transparently situations for what they are. And it was really interesting, given the context of the show, like true colors emerged immediately, but it took the context shift and took like this different environment to be able to like see some of those different things that like maybe weren't apparent or shifted. And it's interesting because I think about like, what are my blind spots? What are things that I don't know is going on? Where am I choosing to think something's awesome or great when it's not? And being, blind to maybe what the reality is. And it's really interesting. And it's, you can't live your life in fear, but at the same time, I think that's why you surround yourself with other people. That's why you ask for help. It's why you see professionals. There's a lot of different, a lot of different perspectives that can help you understand if a situation is really positive or not.
Yeah. I mean, all in all, you've gone through quite the journey, and I think it's led you to a certain place. And even before that, we speak about your creativity and your desire to share and expel positive energy towards the people around you. And part of that is, was becoming more of a creative person and, putting that more online. So I'd love to dive into something that, has been a big part of, I think, your influencer marketing image. I'd love to open up a bit about the Snap Creator Program. Because I remember us talking. I think like that was a big part of why we met.
Oh yeah, I was over here like, are you on Snapchat?
Met at Complex Con for the first time, and I remember me being like, "Yeah, I'm here." I was part of the Snapchat Creator Program, and we never really dove deeper beyond that. So I'd love to know a little bit about that program, how you got involved, and kind of what paths it's paved for you.
Yes. So Snapchat, I started, obviously, I feel like everyone had a Snapchat experience, maybe like 2015, that was very different, where it's like they're sending like messages that they know will delete or pictures. Mm-hmm. So that was like my version of Snapchat that I knew. I have a friend who got into Snapchat, like creator just program, getting monetized on there, and just showed me like, oh, it's different now. Like you can create a public profile, you can curate it in a certain way. And they really truly value like their creators. Like they put their money where their mouth is, they back them up and everything. So I started snapping towards the end of 2023, ironically, when all of that went down. And so I'm transitioning through like the breakup, because, after a breakup, there's always another breakup, and there's like trying to figure things out. And so that happened the same time my corporate job was ending. And I just was like, God, I don't know what you're doing. Everything is ending, but I'm just going to like trust that things are going to work out. I was applying for all these jobs, and even though I was like overqualified for it, like doors were just shut. So I started pouring into just doing what I've always felt led to do, which is like being more like a content creator for myself, not necessarily for like a business. And I saw that Snapchat had it's called a Snap 523 program, where they take 15 creators out of the country and they basically like fund your creator journey. So they give you a monthly stipend, they partner you with mentors, they send you to events like Complex Con, where you can meet Kwame and, somehow end up on a podcast with him. it's like, it's just like a level of support with working with just a social media platform that I never received before. So I applied for the program not knowing like if I would make it or not. And I was chosen to be 1 out of 15. It's a year program, and it's just been like amazing so far. Like they don't pay me to say any of this, but it's just like authentic to the point where when I meet people and I know that they create content on other platforms, just knowing the stigma of what Snapchat was in the past, I just like to educate people on how it's changed and how you can get into the monetization program, you can make money from it, and they truly just like support creators from a genuine standpoint.
I love that. It's fun. We've been watching and working with the Snap team, and they're just so focused on creators. And I love the approach they're taking because it is very pro creator, and it's, you know, from the monetization, the tooling, and programs like this are really unique, and it's awesome as a creator to get these experiences. Like it's once in a lifetime type experience, and it's so funny. I get the same feedback around like that 2015 Snapchat experience versus now. One thing that they you know, a phrase they coined was like less likes, more love, and it was like just creating this connection through the platform, and the way that, you know, on Snap you're encouraged to post is just all the time, like frequently, and driving lots and lots of content. And I think the relationship that's developed, like you feel like you're in this person's life because you're just following along. Like some people are doing 70 stories a day. It's just crazy. But it is really cool, the human to human connection that they're creating, and you know what they're doing for creators. It's pretty amazing.
And that's what I didn't realize when I first got on Snapchat for the second time was the amount that you could post and it not be overwhelming. Like if you were to post 70 stories on Instagram, people would probably unsubscribe. You're doing too much. With Snapchat, it really is just like the BTS of your life, where the people who follow you want to know the nuances. They want to just see you throughout the day, no makeup on. Hey, here's what's going on, and not just like the highlights. And it puts less pressure on creators to post, where it's like, I don't have to make sure I have a trending sound and it's edited perfectly and I have like this magical, like whatever. It's just super like organic to the point where I just feel like I can reach like 200 snaps in a day and no one is like overwhelmed or telling me to stop snapping.
I'm just imagining this scenario where like your audience is DMing you, I'm like, hey, we forgot your keys. Like, you know, they're just like so embedded. They're just like, they know before you when you make a mistake or do something. It's funny.
Literally. But I feel like it created like a window for people to know like the real me, like on Snapchat. Like I call them my Snap fam. So even when the show came out, they were mad at me. They were like, hold up, I thought we were besties. You didn't even tell me you were in a relationship. Like, what's going on? They're like, hold on, I've been following you for like a whole year. You kept this secret. Like there's like a true bond that you create with your audience on there, where I had to explain to them, like, listen, first of all, my ex didn't want our relationship on social media. And second of all, I started snapping after the show. So like, I couldn't tell you. But I just love that sense of community that you can build with them. Like they know how clumsy I am. They know the ins and outs of like, all right, today's running late, or just the chaos of what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah. No, I think it's the journey to destigmatizing what Snap is like, it's really big. It's really important. It's funny. Kyle emailed me just a couple days ago. He was like, hey, just want to make sure you're on Snap, which right after, I think right after we met, Marshall and I both got on Snap, and like, I saw this Instagram the other day, right? And it's like, got the most negative energy. The guy's like, hey, if your boyfriend or your husband's got Snapchat, they're doing something sneaky, right? And it's like, you know, that's the stigma that's become what it is. But in actuality, it is really funny, right? Because when you think about what layers social media creates for most people, it's to have this very, very polished. And I mentioned this in another podcast, that when when I first started being a creator, I was so picky about what I would
Yeah.
put on my Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I had this like really aesthetic flow. I was super into photography, so everything had a specific like hue to it. I was in Lightroom so much. So if you like look at the spread of my Instagram, the bottom like 1/8 is perfectly curated. And then from and then the rest, right? But it took a really long time for me to lower those guards and be like, you know what? I'm just going to post everything, right?
Yeah.
Because it just comes to mind and I want to be able to share it with y'all. But the cool thing about Snap is like, that's what you could do from the get. You know, like there was never a moment of like, hey, I'm going to be a little bit wary about this. It's just like, no, I'm just going to put it out because at the end of the day, it'll disappear. I'll move on with life. And like,
Yeah.
it was a really, really cool way to stay connected with everybody without feeling like you had to curate your life in a certain way because, you know, everybody was going to see it. You had your own little corner. You had your own little community. And you could be like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. What's up? Let's enjoy that, you know?
Exactly. And I think a good thing that they did to kind of merge the two is that on your public profile, similar to on Instagram, how you have highlights, you can create highlights that live on your page. So if you do want someone to see, like, hey, I'm into like fitness, I'm into photography, I'm into this, like you can still have those moments there that don't disappear unless you delete them, but you still can also have stories that disappear like an hour or 24 hours or whatever. So it's like
Yeah.
really interesting. And also just getting into content creation too. So I came from corporate world. Like I was helping create television shows before. And there was like a stigma with like, you have to choose one or the other. You can't do both. So for a bulk of my career, like, you know, through college and then working at MTV and VH1, I was doing like talent and casting and also just like development. And I felt like I couldn't necessarily be in front of the camera at all. I had to like hide my Instagram. So as I was transitioning into being a content creator for myself, I had to kind of destigmatize that mentality of like, oh, am I doing too much? Am I sharing too much of myself on social media? Which was also just like a really interesting transition. So I felt like Instagram was that first layer, and then Snapchat, I was like, wait, I'm doing way too much. Like, you guys are seeing me first thing in the morning, hot breath, like, whoa. But I love it. It's my favorite platform for sure.
Oh, okay. So in that sense, then I'm going to ask for some Snapchat advice from you because, you know, all I did was log back into my Snapchat that I've had since I was like, I don't know, 18 or whatever, you know? And then from there, I like don't know what to do, right? Like, how do you get followers on Snapchat? How do you grow your community? All that good stuff.
So I would say one, just showing up and being consistent. Like even before I got in the program, I had just, I guess, my 500 friends from like back in the day. And I would just like show up and post. At the time, I was like at least 50 snaps a day, which seems crazy, but a
Yes,
snap
it
is really
does.
10 seconds. So a snap, you could snap for like 5 minutes and get, someone do the math for me, but like you can get steps, you know? And it sounds like super crazy, but it's actually not. And it's like you can snap like pictures and stuff like that. So anyways, just showing up and being consistent because the algorithm can like push it out to people. And then Snapchat also has a feature called Spotlight, which is very similar to just like the Reels tab on Instagram or just TikTok in general. You can submit some of those things that you will post on Reels or TikTok, and that goes out to millions of Snapchatters. So if it hits in the algorithm, you have people following you, which is why it's good to have your profile built out. So if they're like, oh, if you're a comedian, I saw this funny skit, go to your profile and I see that you have a bunch of funny stuff, I'm going to follow you. So like it becomes more, the conversion rate is better like once you have like your public profile built out of like who you are and the type of content that you want people to see. So a combination of just showing up, being consistent even when you don't feel like it, and then also constantly posting to Spotlight will get your page going.
It's
So
so
I'm going
funny
to do that.
It's so funny you talking about like your personal journey and sharing a lot on social and people following along. I feel like I always go through this arc of like you see one piece of content and then you go to land on the profile and then you go through the story arc of watching people's highlights. It's funny because like on your profile, like, oh, like into fashion and into fitness and like there's different travel posts. And then it's like you dive into highlights and it's like, I felt like I was on this emotional roller coaster through like 80 highlights of the entire season of Ultimatum. I'm like, oh, now her sister's crying and like all these people reacting. This girl's like air fighting someone because she's so mad. And then it like goes to fitness and it's like, okay, 17-week update. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like you're right. Like, and it's like, you go to hair and you're like, oh, curls, the straight, like I'm invested now. And you get done. You're like, I feel like I just lived this person's life over the last like 25 minutes and they lived it for like 3 years. But it's funny how one post in the algo, you land on the profile and then it's like you're like 20 minutes later and you're completely invested in this person and everything in their life.
And seeing like their deep, dark secrets, things that even in my highlights, I need to go through them. I'm like, I have no idea what I posted in 2017. But that's a part of me too, where I'm just like, I have grown to be very confident and just transparent about my journey. Like I never want to be that person who is like, I'm picture perfect or this is the life that I'm living. Like I want to talk about the highs. I want to talk about the lows. I want to be able to like ask my, followers, my friends, like feedback to get advice. Like I just love that sense of community that I feel like sometimes is missing when you just try to paint everything as like picture perfect.
Yeah, that is true. And, when it comes to really, really excelling on the Snap side, a lot of people don't really know the economics of it. We'll put it that way, right? And we don't have to get too specific, right? But you've gone through the creator program. They've kind of nourished you as a creator. Are you now working with brands in Snap?
Yeah. So with the program that I'm in right now, I've gotten 2 brand deals so far. I've worked with Clinique, which I have on my page, and I also worked with AT&T. That was pretty cool. So a part of the program as well is working with this team called Ensemble, and they help diverse creators get brand deals and help with the negotiation to make sure it's like fair, talent fees like across the board, because oftentimes, minority creators are overlooked or, all of that. So I've been able to like get a few brand deals, and then Snapchat economics in general, which is also like on their page too. Like if you get into their monetization program, you can get crystals. It sounds crazy, but those crystals translate into dollars, which translate into your account. So for example, like 1,000 crystals is $100. So the more crystals you get based off of like the amount of views you get on your story, like turns into crystals and you can cash out every Friday and you can see that reflected in your PayPal. So that's the monetization program that a lot of creators try to get into. Anyone can really get into it if they meet like certain metrics, which is listed on their site. But that's why when people are like, no, Snap actually pays, like they actually do. It's not like a favoritism type of thing. Like, oh, you have to be a celebrity or influencer. It's like, if you are consistent, you showed up, you built your audience, you can roll into the monetization program.
Everyone's like, why is Zaina so happy on Fridays? It's like, okay, we get it. Crystals just dropped.
Listen, I'm like, my crystals are hitting. Like,
oh, that is funny. As we get closer to wrapping this up, there's a quick segment that we go through. It's just a rapid fire. We ask a this or that. You give us, the answer, and then, a quick little blurb about why you picked that answer. Okay. So do you think you're ready to do something like that?
All right. Rapid fire.
All right. So let's make it happen. So Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat?
I mean, Snapchat, hello.
Yeah, I think you've been giving us a million reasons, so we won't even ask you for the whys. A story or a post?
Oh, I would say, since Snapchat is my go-to, a post, because I need balance in life. Okay. I like to curate just like certain moments and things, the music, the sound, the the artistry behind a post, I find that to be really fun too.
Awesome. What is your favorite movie?
Okay, so all-time favorite, Bad Boys 2. I will rewatch that a million times. I was so excited when it came back.
Mike Lowry.
Great movies. And then lastly, favorite quote.
This has been the reflection of my life for like the past however long, but sometimes good things fall apart so better things can fall together. I may have said that wrong, but the sentiment is there.
Okay.
I love that. That's
You have
amazing.
to like let go and allow things to happen. And even if you don't realize why, you will down the line.
Amazing. Well, I mean, I think we've gotten a lot from you today. You have been a fantastic guest. I think we're about running up on time, but I did want to open up the floor to you to give our audience any last words that you would have, whether those be of encouragement, whether those be of your experience on Ultimatum, whatever it is. It's 30 seconds to a minute of Zaina time to say whatever you want.
This is the Zay talk. Look,
Oh, look at that.
I don't have a microphone and you forgot to give me one. So here's but no, I think something that I've just been living in right now and I'm really grateful for and happy for, and I know a lot of people say this, but really prioritize your healing from a holistic standpoint. Have genuine check-ins with yourself, mind, body, soul. Make sure you don't neglect any part of things. And it doesn't even have to be something that happened recently. It could be something from your childhood. Just like really try your best to immerse yourself, to be vulnerable, and just find healing in whatever way you can, because it unlocks so much more for yourself. And that is something that I am a testament of right now. So prioritize that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We're so happy for your success, and you're just genuinely happy, and it's really awesome to see you coming through what was a bit of a tumultuous experience. But we're thrilled to have you on, thrilled what's going on, and for all of our listeners, we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.